Hi everybody and welcome to episode 18 of the Talk is Cheap show. We've got another great show lined up for you today, but before we go any further, it's my pleasure to introduce our regular guest.
You saying, bro?
Big C in the house.
Yeah,
what you saying, brother?
Oh, good, man. Yeah,
everything good?
Yeah,
I'm alright,
everything
man.
blessed,
I'm alright.
man. Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Boy, just working on the channel. Curtis Shaw TV, keep supporting that.
Big
Arsenal coming back, aren't they? So no more boring weekends.
But rumour has it, man, that you've been out, man.
Out and about.
Warm weather training in Dubai, is that right?
No, not Dubai, mate.
No. Or was it the Gooner Girl? Was you out there with Robbie?
No, I didn't.
Shout out to Robbie, Brennan, Troops, who else? Loomis, yeah. The team.
Representing.
Some great footage out there, man. Make sure you go check that out. Yeah, Gooner Girl.
I'm trying to get the invite next year, man.
Yeah, man, I'm gutted I missed out on that. But hey, man, I guess we got them. We're making small steps on.
Yeah,
we're
get
not
there
yet,
eventually.
but hopefully we'll be on the next trip. So. Yeah. So before we get into the main topic of the show, I thought we'd have a quick recap on last week's show, which was quite interesting for a number of reasons. We had our special guest on, Jordan. Big up, Jordan, by the way.
Big up.
A lot of people really liked the show, man, which was pleasing. Some really good comments made. But I just thought that I'd touch on a few things that were raised.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people agreed with us that Arteta has got off to a good start, and a lot of people were aligned with your thoughts about how he'd done and the different, we discussed the different criteria, but they weren't happy with some of the grades that were given.
No.
They thought the E-Man are a bit harsh.
I just think, as good as he's done, you got to be realistic. It's a results business.
It is.
We've won 3 games since he's been in. 2 of them were in the FA Cup.
I mean, I'm going to put out a disclaimer now.
Go on.
That I gave him mainly Bs, but you man was giving like Cs and C+. And
yeah.
Man felt that was a bit harsh, but I mean, it's a subjective thing, people.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we all agreed on the panel, didn't we, that he got off to a very decent start.
Yeah.
And there are definitely green shoots of recovery and there's reasons for optimism. But, we're not going to go overboard yet. And certainly your grades seem to reflect that.
I mean, if we're going to get back to where we want to be as a club, we can't start saying that he's made a great start when he's only won 1 game. I know we've drawn a lot and we're unbeaten this year. But ultimately, you look at Ancelotti came in at Everton. They were in a relegation battle. They're now above us. It's a results business when you got to win games. But Arteta has started well. Yeah. There's a long way to go. I
think that's fair enough. I think we can all agree that he's made a great start. That's the main thing. Well, it wasn't a great start. A good start. Yeah. So for our main topic of the day, I guess with there being no games last week, a lot of people could be forgiven for thinking it was a slow news week. But with Arsenal, the proverbial gift that keeps giving, there was always going to be something cupped up though that was worth talking about. And indeed, I was glued to my TV last Friday watching, and I saw Bert Leno is actually attending a community event, and they were asking him about the current state of Arsenal and how things are going, and the man started throwing shade on Emery, man. I was like, rah, you know what I mean? I was a bit taken aback by that, and I got to watching it, I was like, rah, man. So I got my pen out and started making some notes of what he said, and this is what he said. In the short time that Arteta has been in charge, he has had a big impact. You can see with the intensity we play and the structure in the team, also the mentality out on the pitch. I don't want to say it was a mess before, but it was a bit confusing. Everyone was doing different things. We were not a team, not in the dressing room, not on the pitch, and you could see that. I think with Mikel, it changed completely, and you can see this. From day one, he came in not talking too much about tactics, he was talking about the way we should be in the dressing room, and when we go to games, we have to be more professional and be like a team. I was a bit taken back by that, man. So then that happened, and then obviously the team were on the warm weather training break out in Dubai, and then there was more shade thrown, man, more shots fired. Ozil, maybe it's not surprising that Ozil has got a lot of love for Unai Emery, but he said, the team now under Mikel Arteta are much happier and willing to give everything for the club, which some people might say coming from Ozil is a bit ironic, but there you go. He went on to say, right now everybody knows tactically that we are improving. It's just too much that Mikel has been here, but we have improved a lot tactically. Wow, man. More shade. Then Lacazette, he's also talking greasy. He said, and I quote, "We are more together now, the way we think as well as on the pitch and outside the pitch. Tactically, we are better and we are going to see a big improvement in the next few weeks." And this is interesting coming from Lacazette because a lot of you may recall he was the one that, I think it was back in October last year, he liked to tweet, didn't he, from Troops, big up Troops,
about
saying that
sacking
the manager, and that caused a bit of consternation at the time. So maybe we shouldn't be too surprised about Lacazette. Anyway, moving on. Mustafi, Mustafi, he appeared to take a dig at Emery. There was a picture that he posted on his social media site, and it was Mustafi sat next to Arteta, and there was a caption on it saying, "Communication is the key to improvement." I was like, rah. And then, of course, Emery's hit back. Emery's firing shots back himself.
Emery came with a fully loaded clip, didn't he?
Yeah, man, that clip was emptied out, bro. Yeah, I'll just, for the benefit of the viewers, it's because it's always best if you quote these guys verbatim rather than do the rhetorical stuff. So we'll quote him verbatim here. Look. So Emery said, "Arsenal was a club on a downward slope 2 years before I arrived." Wow. "We stopped this fall and even began to rebuild the club with the Europa League final and 5th place in the league. We were only 1 point off Tottenham despite the fact that we took just 1 point in our final 5 matches. We had Champions League qualification in our grasp and it went wrong in the end. But it was a good season overall and I had this notion of continuing to improve. But we lost our 4 captains." He's a man, he seems to like a lot of captains, this guy. So he's named Koscielny, Cech, Ramsey and Monreal. "They were personalities that we missed in the season to stay on the right track, and some of the stars did not have a good attitude." Wow, shots fired. "And they asked for more than what they were giving back." And then subsequent to that, I think Paul Merson, ex-Arsenal footballer, some would say ex-Arsenal legend, but anyway, he's come in and basically agreed and said Emery should be more respected, that the players should put more respect on his name, and that they should lay off and get on with what's stuff on the pitch. So I thought we'd ask Curtis. I mean, as you know, some of you guys may know, you should know that Curtis is an ex-professional footballer, so you've been in the mix, man. You've been in change rooms. Okay, maybe not Premier League level, but the principles are the same. So what's your thoughts on this? Do you think that the players, let me just say it, do you think the players are out of pocket for coming out publicly? Do you think what they've said reflects badly on them? Do you think they should be a bit more respectful? Do you think it says something about them as players or as people? Or conversely, do you think they were just being honest? Do you think that they think maybe the fans have a right to know why things weren't going so well at the club while Emery was there, and they're just basically being honest and there's nothing wrong with it? What do you think? It's interesting stuff.
So Emery said a lot there. I think the players have to take responsibility, because I think from that Crystal Palace game last season, although I do blame Emery for that game because his team selection, I think, gave Palace the opportunity. That infamous game, you know, Carl Jenkinson, Mavropanos and El Neni came into the team.
Wow.
Even Benteke scored against us. When he's scoring, you've got problems, because he hardly ever scores, does it?
Although he did score at the weekend.
Yeah, he scores about every 6 months, don't he? But from that point, I mean, the players threw away the top 4 last season. We only, as he said, 1 point. We needed 1 point.
Yeah.
One more win would have got us in the top 4.
Yeah, I think that's the day when everything crashed and burned.
That's where it started, and they couldn't recover it. I think Emery is sort of saying, you know, some of the responsibility should be put onto the players. I mean, he's not telling many lies in what he's saying.
No.
Although the timing's a little strange for him to come out of that. But maybe he's trying to show people that, you know what, I actually did a better job than you're giving me credit for.
You know what, I've come across a few people that have said that recently.
Yeah.
I've said that, you know, at the end of the day, in spite of Arteta coming in and doing a half-decent job, maybe it's masking the fact that some of the players, the responsibility should be applied to them a bit more.
Yeah.
Because, you know, But anyway, carry on.
So I think Emery last season, he did an all right job, to be honest. Realistically, we should have got in the top 4. If he got in the top 4, he would probably still be the Arsenal manager now.
Yeah.
He said that the targets. He even said in his comment that the club signed Pepe, not him.
Yeah,
which were, he was kind of backing off as if to say,
mind you, that's not unique.
Because especially in
when there's a sporting director, and they've got a team of analysts and they're looking into players, they will often sign the players and then they basically give the players the.
Overall, I think it's good when players are honest and give you an insight into what's happening. But as you said off camera, I think when your team is not doing well and individually you are not playing well, I don't think you should be coming out making those sorts of statements. You look at the players you just mentioned. Mustafi's making comments. This guy is probably not good enough to be at Arsenal. You got Mesut Ozil making comments. For me, we should be moving on from Mesut Ozil now. You've got Lacazette, who he hasn't scored for so long. I think Emery had more shots in that interview than Lacazette's had all season. You know what I mean? So, but look, Emery wasn't the right manager for the club, but I think he's just trying to show that, look, I didn't do as bad a job as you're giving me credit for. And maybe these players, we've had 3 managers this year, and in terms of results, we haven't seen much improvement. Arteta's improving us, but the players have to take a little bit more responsibility for me. I don't know what you think.
No, you know what? I'm kind of mixed on this because, clearly things were not right at Arsenal, especially towards the end of Emery's tenure. You could see, it was obvious that things were not right. Now the players have come out and spoken out. We're getting more of an insight into what was going on.
Yeah.
But I've got an opinion, especially in sport, is by that you speak from a position of strength, right? So, okay, Lacazette and Mustafi, Ozil, those 3 in particular, Leno not so much.
Yeah.
They've not really enjoyed fruitful seasons, have they? So you're coming out and you're having a go at the manager, fair enough, okay? But it has to be said, even since the new manager's rocked up, the performances still haven't been great. They've been better, but none of those guys are really performing at optimum levels yet. So this goes back to my original point about taking responsibility for your own performance. So they still haven't nailed it yet.
No. And what's interesting, Lacazette's having a go at Emery. Lacazette had his best season at Arsenal under Unai Emery.
Yeah.
So it's interesting for him to say, he didn't enjoy playing under him. I think we can all see communication was an issue under Emery, but I think the players have to take some responsibility as well.
And is it a case as well whereby by them speaking out against the previous manager, in some way they're trying to curry favour with the new manager by lauding him with all this praise and saying, oh yeah, he's so great now, whereas before we were in the doldrums. But I don't know, man, I'm mixed on this because at the end of the day as well, I think fans do appreciate an insight into what's been going on.
Yeah.
Because we're not stupid people, we can see it, innit? We all could see that things weren't right. I think one of Unai Emery's biggest failings was his communication. And you could see that with his press conferences, but it was also evident with the team.
Yeah.
And so now that they're actually coming out and speaking out as to what was going on, like I said earlier, it gives us an insight into what was going on. So we're kind of knowing now
what was
why things weren't so. So in some ways, I kind of respect what they've done.
Yeah.
But in another way, like you chatting greasy when the man's gone like that, it kind of, I don't know, man.
Don't sit great. With the fact the results haven't improved that much, if we was flying at the moment and we'd won 5 games in a row, I'd say, do you know what, you can talk like that because it's clear that it's changed since he's gone. But the results haven't got that much better since he left, so
maybe it's a bit too soon to be speaking out.
Well, I don't know, but some of the responsibility's got to fall with the players.
Yeah, most definitely. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I thought we'd talk about it and chop it up and see what you think. So your final word, what are you saying? You think they were right to speak out? Should have left it alone? Or you're non-committal, you haven't got a problem with it either way?
It's a mixture of both, really. I don't mind players speaking out, but make sure your actions are backing that up on the pitch.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I would say as well.
Yeah.
If you're going to speak, you have to speak from a position of strength. And I don't think these guys, none of them, man, with maybe the exception of Leno, maybe. Yeah. I don't think none of those guys are really speaking from a position of strength. But it's interesting, all the things. So people, let us know, man. What do you think? Do you think they're right to speak out? Do you have a problem with it? Or you don't have a problem with it? You think it's no problem for them to speak their mind and let us know what's going on? Text us, message us, let us know. Right, welcome back everybody. Our next topic we're going to discuss now, and first of all, don't adjust your sets. You're not seeing double. We've got in the house none other than Robbie, my brother, my younger brother, but the big man.
Bro. All good?
Good to be on the show. Talk is cheap.
Yeah,
Talk is cheap, man. meaning that you don't have to pay for it, not because what we talk is a lot of crap. That's the genesis.
I don't know, man.
You know what I mean? But anyway, man, it's a real pleasure to have you on, and we got you on specifically because we were having a bit of a heated discussion earlier, so about this subject we're about to talk about. So I thought it's only right that we get you on so you can air your views out to the people. So basically, we were talking earlier in the office, and a lot of you guys may already know there's been a proposal out there to have a statue of Arsene Wenger placed outside the Emirates, and according to reports, Wenger's agreed to it. So it seems like it could well happen. So obviously there's been the discussions around as whether it should happen. And most people, I think it's fair to say, agree with it. But there are a few naysayers, and I have to admit, I'm one of them. Not because I've got an issue with Arsene Wenger per se, but I'm saying I think it might be a bit too early. Yeah, because of certain things, and I'll elaborate on those in a minute. But Robbie, man, give us your opinion, because I know when I said I was a bit of a naysayer, you had a pop at me. So tell the people.
I couldn't believe you said that. Because, well, no, actually, I couldn't believe you said that. Because I know
those who know me will probably
I know what you're like, right?
Surprised.
I know what you're like, and I know that there's probably going to be some people who watching this will say, "Oh, Robbie, you're being a hypocrite because you guys had a go at Wenger." Listen. Let me just first of all say, we never used to have a go at Wenger. We just give fans a chance to have their opinions on Arsenal. And towards the end of Arsene Wenger's tenure, he was going for a very rough time. And the opinions of the fans were that, it was time for him to move on. And we all know that what happened, and he moved on and that, right? However, he 100% deserves a statue outside the Emirates Stadium. I look at the statues that are there, and I think he's more deserving of a statue than any other person that's currently there. He's the greatest ever manager that Arsenal have had. It's as simple as that. So if you're honouring people, Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp are greatest ever players, because of Wenger, I remember. Both of those. I know Bergkamp was brought in, I think it was by Rioch, but Wenger made him, right? Wenger made Thierry Henry, converted him.
You think Wenger made Bergkamp?
Wenger, it was under Wenger. No, maybe not made him, but it was under Wenger that he played his greatest football for Arsenal, right? Wenger, I think he made Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry was a winger. He came in, converted him into a striker. The rest is history, right? Tony Adams, who was there, we know he was played under George Graham and that, but he gave Tony Adams that like a second life.
Yeah, that's true.
You listen to when Tony Adams
convince him a little bit.
When you listen to when Tony Adams speaks, he speaks so much about how Wenger changed him. With the, how he changed everybody's diets and drinks, and they always be out on the lash. Yeah. He changed all that. Not just even at Arsenal. He changed all that in football in general in this country.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He changed the style.
You're wearing him down, eh?
I'm wearing it down, man. He changed the style of Arsenal. We were boring Arsenal. We didn't really have much direction. We used to be known as a team that, 1-0 to the Arsenal. We had some great players like Ian Wright and people like that, but he changed the style that we were known as this attacking team. I remember so many seasons, you be with me a lot of times when we go around to during the Invincible times, and even after that, we go to places, away games and that, and opposition fans would be like, you know what, mate? I have to say, Arsenal's even like my second team. I just love how you lot play. That's because of Wenger, right? So the move to the new stadium. He oversaw that.
He built the stadium, didn't he?
Even though a lot of people would say that the new stadium
well, he himself actually
brought a lot of issues with it.
He himself came out the other day and said, we lost our soul when we went there, right? But he oversaw that, and for a long time, we were getting into the top 4, and he had a limited budget for the first period of that tenure. He had a very limited budget, right, because they were having to pay off for the stadium. And he oversaw that. We're getting in the top 4 every year.
Right, we got to the big bro. Let me finish. Big bro.
Right, so
Curtis,
go on.
Curtis, man, what's your take on it?
So for me, I think Wenger definitely deserves a statue. For me, growing up, Wenger brought joy to me as an Arsenal fan. I saw football there that I'd never seen in the Premier League. As you say, Emery, my favourite ever Arsenal player. And,
Mine too, by the way.
Yeah, the way he converted him from a winger into a striker. Picking up Vieira, the links with France, he took us a step further. I think he almost shell-shocked Ferguson. He never saw someone coming in and challenging him like that. I can understand why people will criticise him for the latter stages. I mean, I know we was still getting us in the Champions League, but I still have nightmares about, Shamak, Danielson, Yossi Benayoun, losing Van Persie to Man United, losing Sanchez. Someone said to me the other day, what do you think was the worst moment, the moment that really, stands out for you? And it was the Luis Suarez deal. I think if Luis Suarez would have come to Arsenal, we'd have won the Premier League. And Wenger might have still been at Arsenal now.
That's not necessarily Wenger's fault,
it's not,
that deal, is it?
It's not necessarily, but people say he had a lot of power at the club. And, it seems like, how come Gazidis had so much power when he was there? I remember watching you on Transfer Daily so many years.
Oh, God.
Please get us a striker, please.
Buy some players!
Higuain, Benzema. How many times did you say Benzema?
I know, that's
And it
true.
Never happened, and it was frustrating. But yeah, in terms of the early years, I think, he's the greatest manager we've had. The style of football, he took us on to the next level as a club, and I think he does deserve a statue.
Right, that's pretty
goes.
convincing arguments, but in the spirit of true democracy, I'm going to try and present an alternative view now. Yeah. First of all, what I would say is I do agree wholeheartedly that he is the best manager we've ever had. I think that's clear. I don't know too much about Herbert Chapman. Some people, I heard DT waxing lyrically about Herbert Chapman earlier, so cool. But what I would say is, man, yes, certainly when he first come, he revolutionised the club, and like Robbie said, not just the club, but Premier League football, British football. He came in, his ideas about nutrition. I heard he even had his attention to detail in terms of the way the ground, even inside the ground, where the players hang out, the canteens and all that, the ambience around that, everything was spot on. So yeah, I'll give him that. But I do, if I'm being honest, let's keep it real, man. Let's keep it 100. His tenure can be split into 2 phases. There was the early years in which he was magnificent, and then there were the latter years, which were, let's be honest, man, were nowhere near as good as the early years, yeah? And there was a number of things there that happened that are very concerning to me. The lack of signings, some of the players we were bringing in, you named a few of them yourself. The drop-off. His relationship with the board, I thought, was too cosy. He was in cahoots with the board. We weren't signing players. We were bringing in players of far inferior quality into the club. Again, we're not knocking down some of the players we had with proper contracts and stuff like that. And I just think that the last few years in particular, man, the mood of the club, the way things were going, I thought he stayed on far too long.
He did, but that doesn't mean it doesn't deserve a statue, though. When you say it's too early, that's what I can't understand. When
too early, as in,
what?
I think at the moment, I think it's fair to say a lot of the problems we're seeing at Arsenal now could easily be traced back to Wenger's last years at the club. So what I'm saying is...
It's not just his fault, though, is it?
No, but what I'm saying is, I think having a statue right now is maybe a bit too early.
No, I don't think so. I think...
So I'm not saying I don't think he should get a statue per se. I just think right now maybe it's not the right time to do it. That's my argument.
He definitely 100% deserves a statue, right? Because if you even look at great people, they've got statues of Churchill, yeah? And if you look at Churchill, I was watching that film the other day about him, right? As a wartime leader, he was the best leader. He was perfect for England at the time, Britain at the time, yeah? But after the war, he was not a good prime minister, and he ended up, he didn't do a great job because that just didn't, you know what I mean? So, but he's still got a statue because they remember the great things he'd done. It's the same for Wenger, right?
Yeah, but he's only been gone 2 years.
Wenger had flaws. Wenger had problems towards the end, right? But he was a manager. 22 years in a job. How many other managers were in? And even in that
but 22 years, I would argue that
it was too long.
It was way
too long. Even in that last period, he still won a couple of FA Cups. Arsenal won the FA Cup more than any other team in this country. Arsenal hold at the moment, we're the only team to go a whole season unbeaten. We got a gold trophy for that. That's because of Wenger. When he said it at the time, we're going to go a season unbeaten, they were laughing at him in the press. He did it, right? That's something that had stood for God knows how many years. He did it, right? And it hasn't been broken since. Maybe Liverpool might do it this season, but Wenger done that. Wenger changed the whole landscape of football in this country, not just Arsenal.
I think we all agree on that.
So he deserves a statue, 100%. That's why I was arguing with you earlier. That's why I said I'm
my argument
I just do not understand how you can say that too early or whatever. The guy, they've asked him if he wants a statue. He said yes, do it, man. He deserves it. He deserves it.
I mean, he was great, but what do you think about the last?
Do you not see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I get you.
But as I said,
I was at that last game.
Every great person has flaws.
Yeah, of course they do. We're all human.
Yeah.
But okay, let's go back to that last game. His last game in charge a couple of years ago. Would I be right in saying that I felt the atmosphere at the ground that day was slightly mixed? There was a weird kind of atmosphere that day that he left.
There was people near me who, throughout the last few seasons, have been saying to me, Robbie, I want Wenger gone, right? Because when we need a change. But on that day, they were crying. There's one guy in front of me. That guy's always on Wenger. The guy turned around to me. He had tears in his eyes, and he said, "Do you know what?" He goes, I actually feel bad the things I said about him, because even though those were right at the time, but to see this guy, what he's done for this club, to see him going, and it's right for him to go, but he goes, that's why I'm feeling emotional. Maybe you with your hard back self, you weren't emotional. Even me, I was like, it was sad.
I felt sad when
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was at the ground that day, right? And I just got a feeling that the atmosphere was kind of a bit nonplussed. There was a lot of people who didn't quite know what to...
Some hard people you said.
No, seriously, man. There were a lot of people that were a little bit...
Nah, man.
I thought a lot of people were upset, man.
Did you?
Yeah, I thought so, man. Even I felt a little bit sad.
Maybe I was sitting in the wrong part of the ground then, because where I was sitting, seriously, a lot of people was like, yeah, but I'm slightly... a little bit embarrassed about all this, because we wanted him gone years ago. So why all this outpouring of so-called grief now? It's almost like
it's nothing. I don't think there was nothing wrong with that, because the thing is that
it's good to give him a good send-off.
He deserved a great send-off. He should have went. Do you know what the mixed thing was for me? Right, is that it was only a shame that he hadn't gone a bit earlier.
Yeah.
So that we
when you say a bit earlier, how many? Because some people say 5 years earlier.
Probably 3 to 4 years. I think when he won that first FA Cup after not winning anything for a while, I think that would have been the right time for him to have left then, right? It's a shame he didn't do that, because he would have just went out with everybody's,
blessing. Yeah.
He went out a little late. You're right. He did go out a little late, but whenever he went, what he's done for this club, he deserves a statue. Muhammad Ali, I know you love your boxing, right? Muhammad Ali, right, was a great boxer, and if a statue was being put up, you'd be like, yes, put that up immediately, right? But he didn't finish off his career well, did he?
A lot of
his career, a lot of boxers, they go on too long, right? But there's still, for you still look at Muhammad Ali and say he's a great of boxing, because overall what he did, how he changed the sport, how he revolutionised the sport, he deserves a statue.
Yeah.
He deserves not to be known really for even though we'll talk about the end of his career where he went on too long. He was in fights where, earlier on in his career he would have won that. He went on too long, but he was still a great. Still deserves a statue. And I just feel it's a similar thing with Wenger. Yes, we all know he went on a bit too long, but I just remember what I try to do as well now. I try to remember the good times of this guy, man. He was brilliant.
Okay. But you know what? I'm going to pick you up on something there. I'm glad you raised the boxing analogy and the Muhammad Ali analogy, because I was doing a bit of thinking when we were speaking earlier off camera about this, and I thought what you're saying is right. However, in boxing and a few other sports as well, when they elect people to this so-called Hall of Fame, they have a certain time period that passes first. And that's what I'm saying here. With Wenger, I'm not too against, I'm not against him having a statue per se. I'm just saying it's a little early, man.
How long do you think? How long
has he got to wait then?
Well, what I'm saying is it's only 2 years. But let's be honest, it's only 2 years since he's gone, and we're still experiencing problems. And a lot of people who know a lot more about football than me, saying it stems from that Wenger legacy that he left. So I'm saying, you know what I mean?
How long then? How long?
4 or 5 years. I think 2 years is way too early to be discussing
I think the club
statues.
have approached him, from what I understand, the club have approached him and said, listen, we'd like to do a statue for you. And they haven't just gone and done it. They said, we'd like to do a statue for you. We've got all these other statues around the ground. Would you be cool if we did it? And he's thought about it. And he said yes. And to me, I see no problem with it whatsoever. And I think, it'll be well received. And I think even people, I slightly understand where you're coming from, because there were some people pretty vociferous against him towards the end of his career.
I think it was more than a few people.
Well, a lot of people.
But
I think that everybody now should be looking on him what he did overall, right? And overall, he was our greatest ever manager. And if you're putting up statues outside, how can you have statues of all the people that are there when he's kind of, as I said, Bergkamp and Henry, their statues wouldn't be there if it weren't for him. And I'm not even sure, even though Tony Adams was a great player, even before Wenger came, he was already a great player, but I'm not sure even if his statue would be there, because Wenger took him to that next level again. So I think 100% he deserves.
I mean, would you agree that some of Wenger's failings at the latter part of his career, are we still recovering from that now? Yeah,
of course we are. And we still don't know the full details of, like you said, transfers are very frustrating. The rumour is he had a lot of say on transfers, right? A lot more say than what the guys who are in charge now have, because they've now...
Which is why they've sought to change the structure.
They changed the structure, right? And he made mistakes, but I think you just got to look on it and just say, yes, of course, he made a lot of big errors towards the latter end of his... That's what happens when you stay on too long. As we say with the boxing thing, Roy Jones, who used to batter everybody when he first used to fight in boxing, and then towards the end of his career, the little guys are coming to fighting him who back in the day wouldn't have stood a chance against him and knocking him out.
Tyson as well.
Right? Tyson. You know what I mean? So I just feel that we have to just look at what he achieved overall for Arsenal in the bigger, because we're just looking back on it in the last few years, right? But overall, what he achieved, 22 years as a manager, that alone, that deserves a statue, because nobody ever lasts that long in football whatsoever. So,
well, just to wrap it up, I mean, like I said, I don't have a problem per se with him having a statue.
You want to wait 10, 20 years.
I often, being the kind of personality that I am, I always like to look at two sides of an argument. And there is an argument out there that says that, given the way his tenure ended, for him to get a statue 2 years after he's left is perhaps a bit too soon. And I must admit, I do have some reconciliation with that. I do hear what those people are saying. In fact, I do tend to fall into that category right now. So I've got no problem with him having a statue, but I think maybe to be talking about it now is probably a little early. Let's see how things pan out, 3-4 years, So that's my take on it. I know you're very vociferous. Didn't he even get
it was like well, he can't be knighted because he's French, right? But he got an award one time, innit? Like the equivalent to a knighthood.
Like services
to football.
Yeah. And I personally think as well they should name one of the parts of the ground after him as well.
Yeah.
That's how, they did it for Fergie, didn't they?
Well, he did help to build that ground.
Well, he actually built it, didn't he? Brick by brick.
But then, like I said, the legacy, a lot of people are saying now that when we moved is when the atmosphere around the club has not been the same since, and so there's all sorts of.
Look at you,
we
Man United as well.
Look
at since Fergie's gone. Look at the state of them. So
has Fergie got a statue?
They don't. He hasn't got a statue, but
he hasn't got.
But
they
named a stand.
But they named a stand. They don't really do many statues there. They just got that one statue of it's from the Munich.
Yeah. He's arguably the best manager in.
But they did name it. But they named a stand after him, the Sir Alex Ferguson stand.
And he got knighted as well.
And that was soon after he left.
Okay.
So
he left on top.
And he was knighted, yeah. But what I was saying, Wenger can't be knighted because he's French. But he got some sort of, I can't remember exactly, but he got some sort of award from the Queen.
Okay, so to wrap it up then, Curtis.
So I would build a statue, but I have to block out them late years, man, and just try and focus on the positive, man.
Statue, 100%.
Give him a statue.
And when you look at it, just remember the great things he done.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Me, statue on balance, yes, but maybe a little bit early.
20 years time.
What pose would you have on the statue, actually? What would you have? Holding the Invincible trophy or doing the zip on the jacket?
Well, anyway, guys, interesting debate there. You've heard what Robbie said, you've heard what Curtis said, you've heard what I've said. There's lots of people having their views out there. I know DT's been quite vociferous on it as well. Let us know what you guys think, man. Message us. Let us know what you think. Should he have a statue? Is it right to have it now, or would you, like me, prefer to wait a little while before you have that discussion? Let us know. Hi, welcome back, everybody. And as you know, that this week we do actually have a game. Sunday, it's against Newcastle at home. We're all looking forward to it. And as we've got our special guest on, Robbie, little bro, I thought we'd chat to him a little about it, man. So it's our regular feature, the Ops of the Week.
Move like an op. You must be.
Newcastle, man. And when we do this feature, we always do what I call the receipts. So we look up Newcastle's previous games and see how they are in the table. So
they've been doing all right.
Yeah, not too bad, man. I mean, they're currently 12th, which is just 2 places behind us. We're in 10th. They've got 24 points so far. Overall, they played 25 games, 8 wins, 7 draws, 10 losses.
More wins than us.
Yeah.
Less draws, though.
Their last 5 games, they've won 1, drawn 3 and lost 1. And in that 5 games, I think they drew with Wolves.
They beat Newcastle,
Chelsea.
didn't they?
Yeah.
Sorry, they beat Chelsea, didn't they?
Yeah. And drew with Everton again. So, Robbie, man, what do you think this week?
I think we'll beat them. I think, the breaks come at a good time for us. Players like Lacazette hopefully will be refreshed. Whether he'll feature or not, that's going to be interesting to see. But I think Newcastle, they're going to make it very difficult for us. If you look at their games this season, their sleeper has gotten really well organised. They're going to come and they're going to be very well organised. They've got a lot of pace on the counter in Almiron and St. Maxin, who's probably, I'd like to see him and Traore in a race, that's what I'm saying, right? Because he is quick. But I think, we haven't played at home for a while. And so the fans are going to be up for that game.
I'll be there.
I think the fans are going to be pumped for the game. I think the players are going to be pumped for that game as well, because they know that everyone's been sort of on their case about drawing games. They know they've turned a corner. They have turned a corner. The performances are better.
You know what? I want to pick you up on something just quickly before we go to Curtis, because you mentioned they turn a corner, and before we brought you in, we were discussing some of the comments made by the players during the break about Arteta in relation to the previous manager. I just want to hear your views very quickly, just for the people. What do you think about them comments of the players, mate?
Oh, well, they're right, aren't they? The comments are right. It was obvious to see that under, Unai Emery, especially towards the end of, it was flat. And I don't know what he was doing, Unai Emery. I mean,
So you think they're justified in coming
if
out?
you're a guy like Torreira, who've been played on the right wing, played as a number 10 and now you're being restored to your rightful position, and all of a sudden now you're playing brilliantly, right? And we know what a dressing room is like, right? We know what players are like. They'll see the things that we see now before we see it, and they'll be commenting and talking about it every day. And I think they've been quite diplomatic on the way they've said it. They haven't because we got to remember a lot of times it's headlines, right? So the headlines are they try and make it out like they've dissed him. They haven't really dissed him. They've just said that
under this, bit of a sideways diss, man.
No, but
bit of a sideways.
What Arteta has done is what you can see. The first thing he's done that seems so obvious to me is that he's improved every player that was playing under Emery. So Mustafi has improved. What I've seen so far.
Yes.
Xhaka, I've not seen that. That was the player I wanted to see from a long time. He has improved so much under Mikel Arteta. You know, the players. So they're just saying, you know, it's a breath of fresh air. He's come in. It's lifted the place. I'm playing better. There's nothing wrong with what they said. I don't think they out and out dissed him, have they?
No, not out and out. But it's a sideways diss. It's a sideways diss.
Nah, but Laurie, I think sometimes you've got to be careful, man, because the headlines will make it look like they've dissed.
Okay, so on the reverse of that, what do you think about what Emery said? Because he said he's hit back and he said, look, some of the players are a bit out of pocket with their attitude, and he's also said that when he took over, and this is something I alluded to earlier, is that when he took over the club, they're in a downward spiral, in bad shape.
He started off very well, and you know, that's his opinion, and I think he's entitled to that as well, just like they're entitled to theirs. And I don't think in the stuff that I've read that he said, he's not really dissed. It's like the other day I saw something where they were trying to make out that he dissed the fans. He didn't really diss the fans. He was just sort of saying that, you know, the pressure. You know, he acknowledged that things weren't going well, and the fans are kind of getting on the players. But that's just natural, isn't it? But the headlines are written like Emery dissed the fans. He didn't diss the fans. He didn't.
Okay.
So
Curtis, to roll it back to the Newcastle game.
Yeah, I'm actually optimistic. I think we're going to win this game. As Robbie's saying there, I think the break came at the right time. I think everyone's had a chance to reflect and sort of say, you know, we have improved, but the results have to improve now. We can't keep drawing and complimenting them and saying, oh, we've done well. We've actually got to get 3 points. I'd like to see Aubameyang through the middle. I know that's unfortunate for Lacazette because, you know, it would be nice to have him in the team as well. But I just think that balance, Martinelli, Aubameyang, Pepe, front three. Is
the only thing I was saying on that, Curtis, right?
Yeah,
me and DT were talking about earlier. Newcastle are going to sit very deep, so there's not going to be loads of space in behind.
No.
That free combination with those really quick players that works if a team's playing a bit higher up.
Yeah.
That's why I might be still tempted to leave a Lacazette in there, but then I can understand.
So who would you drop?
Why you drop a Lacazette. I'll probably leave out Martinelli.
Would you?
Because play Aubameyang left.
What about Pepe?
Play Pepe. I'll play Pepe
right.
because I just feel that to unlock that defence, they've got a very well organised team. Somebody with the trickery and that of Pepe can unlock that, and then I'd have Martinelli as my impact that I can bring on later on. But either way, I think I'll be happy if either of them.
Okay, so let me just press you guys for some scores. Curtis, let's start with you.
I'm going to go 3-1. I actually think we're going to score. Yeah, I think we're going to give them some this week, man.
Wow, that's good.
2-0. So you're going to keep a clean sheet.
Clean sheet.
Yeah.
Do you think Mari will play?
There's been a lot of good reports about Mari. Whether do you drop Mustafi?
Yeah, I would.
He's been playing well.
I would.
Why?
Do you know why? Because Mustafi, for me,
I don't think he will.
I don't think he's good enough long term to stay at the club.
But if somebody's playing well, right, you just drop him.
I would, honestly.
That's not very.
I look at Mustafi as like he was like a 2 or 3, and he's gone to like a 5 or 6. Yeah, you've improved, but you're still not good enough.
So
look at the Chelsea era as well, man.
Yeah, but
that was painful.
That was a terrible era, but look how he bounced back after that.
He did.
The game against Burnley, I thought he was outstanding.
He was good in that game.
In a very physical battle. He didn't make no mistakes in that game. The way he bounced back against Chelsea, for me, it's hard to drop him, man.
I would drop him.
You're dropping him. but then you're dropping him on past rep.
But even the Chelsea game though, you played well, but you made a terrible mistake. He's a ticking time bomb for me. It's a matter of time before something goes wrong. You've got this Mari on loan, potentially to buy him in the summer. I'd play him.
At some stage, you've got to bring him in.
You've got to play him for me.
Okay, guys. Well, you've heard the thoughts of our esteemed guests here. I'm going to go with you guys as well. I'm going for a win, but I think unlikely we'll keep a clean sheet, so I'm going for 2-1. So we all think we're going to win the game. But yeah, and also I think it's only right and proper that we should conclude the show by thanking Robbie for coming on. Appreciate you coming on and your comments. Big C in the house as usual. Bro. Tell the people where they can find you, man.
Yeah, check out my channel, Curtis Shaw TV, on the road to 10k. I might have to get you on there at some stage as well.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
I need my statue though.
Yeah, you can get one. But not for 3 or 4 years.
300 years in this case.
Yeah.
So people, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting the show, thanks for supporting AFTV, we really appreciate it. We like to keep the show as interactive as we possibly can, so keep sending your messages, your texts, any way of communication, we appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you very much.